With the daunting presence of an uncertain and unfamiliar future, many people find it difficult to live in the present. We look to the past with naivety and comfort because it's so easy to view it through a lens of idealization. Nostalgia is universally experienced, whether it be nostalgia that applies to a collective or a more personal feeling. Overall, its close relation to memory makes it identifiable to virtually everyone. Therefore, the intertwining of nostalgia and media creates an appeal that is often taken advantage of by commercial industries. The implications of the term quote-unquote retro also involves a massive shared interest. Fixating on the idealization of the past has also resulted in retro media revivalism. Manuel Menke states, "Currently we find many examples of media nostalgia, such as a widespread fascination with analog or vintage digital photography. Retro gaming fan communities share, collect, and play their childhood games. Hence, the evidence of media revivalism fueled by nostalgia is present within the gaming, photography, and video industries." First, we have to look at why nostalgia and the concept of quote-unquote retro is so relevant pertaining to media. In relation to nostalgia, society has been aware of this experienced feeling as early as 1710. According to Elizabeth Guffey, Theodor Zwinger was a Swiss physician who described the fatal effects of quote-unquote nostalgia, which was considered a medical disease and mental illness at the time. His studies found that Swiss mercenaries who had been away from the home and the accompanying aspects of it, like food and music, caused them to become ill and suicidal. Obviously, with time and scientific progress, we now know that nostalgia does not solely cause such effects. However, the notion of comfort and familiarity is what's important to note. The novelty phase and its cultural consequence, moral panic, highlight how we reject emerging media. Nostalgic and retro media are established and no longer emerging nor new. Guffey describes how in the 60s and 70s, after deindustrialization and technological advancements caused moral panic, there is a shift from a positive to a negative outlook on the future. She describes the fixation on quote-unquote retro as a symptom. The past is appealing because of the unpredictable nature of the future. Retro media revivalism relies on nostalgia and commercialism to function and take place. As stated by Nehemiah, nostalgia has been mobilized as a commercial strategy by media and other cultural industries, marketing companies, advertisers, and other consumer-oriented institutions and actors for decades. There's an audience that is capitalized off and simultaneously catered to in regard to media revivalism. Corporate exploitation understands collective nostalgia in a way that lacks substance and focuses on selling the quote-unquote good old days. To a younger generation, this media is appealing and has novelty due to its lack of presence in everyday life. In addition, it is readily consumed, and the implications of serious historical or cultural substance can be disregarded for a multifaceted view of the past through these media. While thinking about the way nostalgia and new media interact and acknowledging the trend of old becoming new again, a piece of technology to think about is the digital camera. Using digital camcorders and quote-unquote digicams as a means of capturing images has started to gain popularity. Digicams, a word combining the terms digital and camera, are small, mostly low-resolution, inexpensive cameras of the late 90s and 2000s. As of lately, these cameras can range anywhere from $50 to $300. Camcorders mirror this, but focus primarily on video rather than photography. These devices can be just as expensive. So why use an old digital camera when this technology has evolved so much in the past 10 years that the lens on your phone is probably better? The revival of the digicam is distinctly different from the trend of bringing back analog tech, such as film and vinyls, as these technologies promise the quality that current digital tech doesn't have. Digicams actually make the quality of the product worse, making them an unlikely subject for revival. The answer has to do with artistic expression and trend cycles, but most importantly, nostalgia. Digicams and camcorders allow people to explore their artistic expression, as the narrowed down options and quality force people to think creatively and focus more on composition than the final product. There is a certain signature look to the photos and video captured that cannot be replicated fully by other technologies. It reminds us of times where these cameras were popular, or even remind us of photos of our childhood taken by our parents. This is the element of nostalgia, remembering the past in a light where only the best of times show up. It reminds you of your childhood and youth and gives you a place to escape from the stresses of current day life. The digital camera and camcorder bring up feelings of happiness and remind us that our lives are valuable and deserve to be captured. You may even have a friend or family member who gave you their old digital camera. It feels good to use things people close to you used to love, and you may even feel like there are memories attached to the physicality of the object. We can also feel like we are breathing new life into it and solidifying these memories for years to come. Focusing on a different aspect of media nostalgia, we can shift our focus to video games. Video games are continuously evolving and providing a novel aspect to consumers. As technology improves, consequently graphics and functionality improve too. Guffey describes that as, retro can also suggest technological obsolescence. Manual typewriters and cash registers have become quote-unquote retro. Entire subcultures devoted to outmoded technology apparatuses have developed. The adherent of retro gaming, for instance, reconfigured the obsolete video games to play on today's computers. Thus, regardless of the technological limitations, objectively poor visuals and clunky gameplay, there is still a huge audience that retro games entice. The nostalgic aspect and the demand for quote-unquote retro are also what allows games that are considered outdated to have devoted players. This is particularly noted within a niche genre of novel indie horror games that are directly visually inspired by PS1 graphics. Functionality and visually, it's a downgrade from the graphics we associate modern games with. However, there is still a massive market for it. Puppet Combo is an example of a successful developer using the resurgence of retro graphics to create a pixelated and low polygon model-inspired horror game. Overall, despite the fact that taking photos or video on a digicam or camcorder takes a serious hit in terms of quality and features, as well as sacrificing modern graphics and functionality when playing old or retro-inspired video games, the demand for it still exists. When media and nostalgia intertwine, we end up with a niche group of people who seek out these old forms of media and/or technology through an idealized lens, where the outdated effects of the past outweigh the advancements of the present and the allure of novelty.